Hi guys! Thank you all for tuning in and welcome back to Sewing Clara. In this tutorial I will show you how to make these three types of gift bags. So we have here this small gift bag that's buttoned up, then a drawstring gift bag, and then a gift bag that's very simple on one side and has a zipper on the other side. Making a gift bag is, in my opinion, a really great way of personalizing gifts, especially if you're on a budget or if you're simply giving someone only something small where the thought counts more than the worth of the gift. But I find that when you pack such gift in a gift bag that you made yourself, it's going to be very clear that you put a lot of thought into what you're going to give the person, and I'm pretty sure they'll appreciate it. As always, the list of materials and sewing supplies necessary for this tutorial is listed in the video description. And once you have all your stuff ready, we can jump right into this. We are going to start with the simplest version, and that is the drawstring bag. So I have here two rectangles of a cotton fabric. Because it's shortly before Christmas, I picked a cotton fabric with a Christmas print. But of course, depending on the occasion you're making the gift bag for, you could use either unicolored fabric or a fabric with a different print. And then I have here two pieces of cord that I'm going to use as the drawstrings. The measurements are following. Each rectangle is 37 centimeters long and 22 centimeters wide. That would be about 14.5 inches times 8.5 inches. And each of these pieces of cord are 76 centimeters long. That will be something about 30 inches. The first step is to place these two rectangles on each other so that the right sides are facing each other inside and that the wrong side is up. And now I will grab my pins and I will start pinning the long sides and one of the short sides in place. So the long sides and the bottom edge have been pinned together, and now we have to make a few marks because we will need two holes from the right side of the bag into which we will place the drawstrings. So I have to make mark for them because we can't just stitch the entire length through. We have to leave a small opening. And this is how I marked where the holes are supposed to be. So the upper edge will be folded inwards. So the first marks I made were marks where this edge will be once I folded it inside of the bag. I even made a little arrow on each side so that I know, aha, this is where the edge will be. This edge, that's the edge I'm talking about. And then I decided I want to have the holes 2 centimeters above the place where the edge will be. That's about 3/4 of an inch. And the hole is also gonna be 2 centimeters big, again 3/4 of an inch. So I made a mark, a very clear mark for myself that I know I'm not supposed to stitch this together. So we will stitch these two pieces together with a back stitch. We will start here on the top. We will stitch towards this mark. Then we will leave this open. Then we stitch all the way to the bottom. We will stitch together the entire bottom edge. And on the other side, it's gonna be the same. From the top till where the hole starts and from the bottom of the hole all the way to the bottom. So let's do this with the help of editing magic. Here it is. So I'm gonna turn my work this way and I will cut here very close to the stitch. That's the mark that marks how far the folded edge will come. So I'll do the same on the other side. And now you can go ahead and stitch here around the edge if you want to with a blanket stitch. I also like cutting these corners at an angle because when I turn the bag, the edges are gonna be nicely shaped. If you decide to hem these edges with the blanket stitch, make sure you only go from this cut around the bottom to this cut, and make sure that these ends remain not stitched together. They have to be open. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna go over to my sewing machine and I will do the zigzag stitch, but if you're just hand stitching, simply do the blanket stitch and then we'll take it from there. So I like turning my work around like so, and I also like folding it so that I will have the seam in the middle. And now I will grab these two seam allowances and unfold them so that they face both left and right, because this way the hole for our drawstring will remain open. And now I will fold the upper edge inwards. I make sure that this edge will be aligned exactly with here with this little cut. That's why we made the cut, because it's easier to align it. And I will put in pins from the right side. I will do the same on the other side. So I will flatten the seam, make sure that both seam allowances are open, and I fold the upper edge inwards towards our mark. And I will put in pins on each side of the seam from the right side. And then I fold my piece again so that the seams are on the side again, and I will fold this upper edge and align it nicely, make sure that everything is straight. I will put in a few pins here on the bottom. For the time being from the wrong side, I just want it to be held in place. And as a next step, I will turn my work to the right side. I will grab my pen, make sure it's closed, and I will shape the bottom edges very carefully. And now I will see where the openings for our drawstrings are. So the way I positioned the holes is that this line with the little stars is the very bottom of the hole. And a little bit above this line is where the top of the hole is. So it's gonna be really easy for me to decide where to stitch. But if you don't have a fabric with a pattern, what you would have to do is to ideally put a pin on the side like so, where the top of the hole is, and here where the bottom of the hole is. You would grab your guide. You would do the same on the other side. Let's do this. So that's the top of the hole and there's the bottom. And you would simply make two lines for the bottom stitch and for the stitch that's above the hole. And you would make the line ideally with a crayon, because now we're on the right side of the fabric, so you want to have something that you can wipe away that will not damage your piece. And then we will stitch with the back stitch once around the entire upper edge here above the hole and once below the hole. Before I do that, I like grabbing a few pins and putting them in at an angle, and at this point, since I'm pinning the pieces together, I can remove the pins from the inside. And now that everything is pinned in place, we can go ahead and do the back stitch here along this line and then here. And now that the back stitch is finished, we created a tunnel around the entire upper edge, and that's where we want to thread through the cord so that we have our drawstrings. And in order to thread the cord through, I have here this special type of needle. It's called a bodkin. Instead of a needle like this, you could use a safety pin, but I like using bodkins. They are super practical. So I will thread one side of one of the cords through the bodkin, and I will start threading it through the tunnel. Now you have two possibilities. if you don't mind having a knot on the outside, you can simply tie this end like so, and then thread the second drawstring and you're done. If you want to have it a little bit nicer and you don't want to have a knot that is visible, then you have to grab both ends of the string, pin them together, and then stitch them together with either a few blanket stitches or with a few whip stitches, which is something we're gonna do together. So I double threaded my needle, I made a knot at the end, and now I will do simply a few stitches on one side of these two aligned ends, and then on the other side. At this point you can already take the pin out because it's been held together with the whip stitches from the other side, so it's not necessary to keep it in there. You can also do the blanket stitch, and when I'm done I like making a blanket stitch around the ends so that any frayed end would be nicely flattened. So I just pinch the needle through the other side where I have this little frayed piece. Blanket stitch. And now I'll do the sew up. Now the end is stitched together. So I will go over to the other side and pull on the drawstring. I will pull it out just a little bit, and then I will grab just one side and make sure that this stitched end will be pulled inwards so that I can see it. And I will pull it about towards the middle, and then I grab this end and pull so that it's nicely hidden. And now all you can see is this nice fold, no knots. It looks really nice. And I will do the same with the other drawstring. And there you have it. Our piece is finished. We can simply pull on each side of the back. The back is closed. And all we have to do is to put our gift inside. Instead of using a cord, you could of course use a ribbon. It would be a little bit more subtle and it would look also a bit more festive. And once you close the back like this, you could make a bow with your ribbon, which doesn't look so fancy with the cord, but if you don't mind, you can do it as well. For our next gift bag, I have here a rectangle of fabric that has been folded simply in the middle, and the fold is on the bottom. The entire piece is 21 inches long, that's 53.5 centimeters. It's 11 inches wide, that's 28 centimeters. And I have here a coil zipper that I shortened to my needs, and I made a new zipper stopper on the bottom with a few stitches. More about that in the tutorial about how to stitch in a zipper. And this is gonna be super simple. I wanna have a zipper on the top, and that's pretty much it. And the way I want the zipper to be stitched in is I want these two edges be aligned so that they meet exactly over the center of the zipper, which is also one of the easiest ways. So in order to do that, I will turn the piece to the wrong side. I will pin the ends of the upper edge like so with pins at an angle, and I will stitch a small section on each side with the back stitch. And now I will make a line that connects both stitch sections. And just like you learned in the tutorial about how to stitch in zippers, I will do here a very loose running stitch. And here it is. Now we can go ahead and open this like so. Ideally you would go ahead and press it. And then you will position your zipper in place, like so. I will pin it now from the wrong side for the time being. While I'm pinning the zipper in, I'm making sure that the center of the zipper is aligned with the center of the seam. Now I'm going to turn this to the right side, and I will grab my pins and I will start pinning at an angle. And once the zipper has been pinned in place properly, you can go ahead and make one row of a back stitch on each side, close to the zipper teeth, but far enough so that the thread wouldn't get caught. Once you stitch the zipper in place, you can go ahead and remove the running stitch. And then you can open and close your zipper. Now you can decide whether you want to have the zipper on the very top so that the upper edge will be the zipper, or if you want to have it a little bit lower, just on one side. That's what I want. And we will turn this piece to the wrong side and we will pin the edges in place. So regardless of whether the zipper is going to be on the top or here a little bit lower, the next steps are the same. Pin the edges together at an angle, and then you will stitch them together with a back stitch. And if you want to, you can also go ahead and hem them with a blanket stitch so that the sides wouldn't fray out. Make sure that you open your zipper before you continue stitching the sides in place, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to turn your piece to the right side once you're done with stitching. And once you finished your back stitch, and in case you wanted to hem your piece the blanket stitch, you can go ahead and turn your back to the right side. I always like grabbing my pen, closing it, and then I like shaping the edges on both the bottom and the top. And our next gift bag is finished. We only have to press it so that it looks a little bit neater and put a gift inside. For our last gift bag, we have here these two rectangles of the cotton fabric with the Christmas trees and a button. So the measurements are following. These rectangles are 20.6 centimeters long and 15 centimeters wide. That would be 8 times 6 inches. The diameter of the button that I'm going to use is 2.3 centimeters. That's a little bit less than 1 inch. When you have a closer look at the pattern, you will notice that the Christmas trees are facing the same way in both the dark red and the light red sections, which is not always the case with this fabric. When you look at it, there are some sections where they are turned. So I had to make sure I picked the right section for each rectangle because I wanted to be equal. It's not necessary, but that's what I wanted. The disadvantage is though that you would use up way more fabric for that if you are picky with what part of the fabric you cut. Now we weren't that picky with this fabric when we made this gift bag, because here I simply folded it in the middle. The advantage is it was simple, it was faster. The disadvantage is now these reindeer are right side up while these are upside down. So that could have been solved in a similar way. Here I could have just cut the bottom and turn the backside rectangle the other way around. I would have accounted for the seam allowance for the zipper, but other than that it would have been an easy solution. While when you have a geometrical pattern you have to play a little bit more so that each section is aligned. So that's something I wanted to show you. But now, regardless of if you want to have the same pattern alignment on the front and back, or if you don't care about that at all, the next step is to take these two rectangles and align them so that the right sides are facing each other, the wrong side is up, and we will simply pin the long sides and the bottom, just like we did with the drawstring bag. But the difference here is that we can go ahead and stitch around the edges right away because we don't need any openings on the side. So we will stitch around the long edges, the bottom, and then we'll take it from there. We cut here at an angle very close to the pointy end, to the edge, so that we can shape the baggie better. And then we will grab the upper edge and fold it inwards while this is still facing wrong side up. And since there are all these lines, it's really easy to align the edge equally on each side. If that wouldn't be the case, you would simply have to grab your guide and make a line for yourself. And here I'm still simply folding the seam to one side because it's not necessary to fold it sidewards like we did with the drawstring bag. And I will pin it in place. Now I will turn our baggie to the right side. I will, as always, grab my pen, turn it off, and I will shape the edges nicely. And now I will repin this edge so that the pins are from the right side. And then I will go ahead and I will stitch around the edge with the back stitch. Of course, before I start stitching, I have to make sure where the bottom edge ends so that I can stitch far enough. So the bottom edge ends about here. So I think the best thing is to stitch here right below this line with the stars. So let's do this. So here's what it looks like, and you might or might not have noticed that I actually made a mistake. And when I stitched the one end together, I made the wrong decision because now the Christmas tree is upside down. So let's do this again and correct our mistake, just like last time, only better. And now I want to stitch on my button and make the buttonhole. So the button's gonna be here on the top, in the center. It will be stitched on here on the inside. That means I want to have my buttonhole here on the front side. So I will grab my crayon and I will mark the button where it ends on each side. I want the buttonhole to face this way. You could of course also have the buttonhole facing vertically. We're gonna have it horizontally. And now, if you remember the tutorial about how to make buttonholes, I will grab my needle and double thread it with a polyester thread, and I will stitch very close to this line around the outer edges with the back stitch first. The thread I'm working with is, by the way, this golden olive green because I find that it goes well with the pattern. Now I will grab my buttonhole scissors and I will open the buttonhole. And now I will do the blanket stitch around the entire buttonhole. Now our buttonhole is finished. We will make a mark for our button. So I like aligning both sides and simply making a dot in the center through the buttonhole. And that way I have my mark where the center of the button is supposed to be. And I will stitch it on here inside. Since I'm stitching the button on the inside and I want to have the stitches as little visible as possible on the other side, I always come through with the thread on the right side of the bag and then I stitch through very closely to the place where I came through and return through one of the holes on the button. And that way I have only really small stitches. So again, I go through, stitch through really closely to the place where I just came through with the needle, and return to this side. And now that the button has been stitched in place, we are able to close our gift bag. And that is the finished product. Of course, I also have to go ahead and press this so that it will look neater. I find that small gift bags like this are amazing when you're giving someone, for example, jewelry or a gift card, because that way you can make the gift card more personal since you created the packaging yourself, the gift bag. But of course, you could make a buttoned gift bag in any size. It doesn't have to be that small. And now let's have some fun and put some items inside of the bag so that you can see what they look like once there's something inside. So a bag like this with a zipper would be perfect for anything that's packed in a flat box, or for example for a book, but of course you would have to adjust the size of the bag to your needs. So I have here this truffle box that fits actually perfectly inside of the shape and size that I made. So let's pack that and close it, and here's what it would look like. I will put inside of the small gift bag with the button a box of my favorite Annie's candy. And inside of the drawstring bag will go these 3 scented gifts. There is a tutorial as a part of this course for all 3. They are super cute, a lot of fun to make, so if you haven't watched the video, I highly recommend it. And let's put them inside of the drawstring bag. And here we have it. So these are all the 3 types of gift bags. These will definitely look super cute underneath the Christmas tree, but as I said at the beginning, you could always use a different fabric depending on the occasion. And of course, you can make all these in different sizes depending on what gift you need to pack. So that is it for this tutorial. I hope that you guys enjoyed it and that it has been helpful. Thank you all for tuning in, and happy sewing!